So the other day we received an email at our office, and it was from a prospective owner client, and he said, I'm thinking of hiring you to manage my rental property, but I'd like you to send me your property management agreement, and I want to compare that agreement to some other companies in town to make a determination on who I want to hire to manage my property. And that is good due diligence, because you as a property owner want to know who you're working with. Well, I'm Mark Cunningham with Grace Property Management. Let me share with you what I believe are the 8 most important parts of a property management agreement that you as an owner want to review to make a determination on who you want to work with. And number 1, and this is in order of importance, so most importantly, number 1, I would say, is how easy is it to cancel that agreement? If there's nothing else you know to make your decision upon it, this could be it. And you say, well, what difference does that make on how easy it is to cancel? Because at some point in time, you're going to want to walk away from that agreement. And if the PM company is doing a good job, I believe they should be earning your business every day. They shouldn't be handcuffing you in to working with them and you can't leave. So if it's a 12-month agreement, is there something like a termination fee or a termination penalty? Because I don't believe there should be. It should be, ideally, you want a month-to-month agreement, meaning you can leave anytime you want. The day they stop satisfying you or the day they decide to sell, you can leave without termination fees or penalties. That's a very important part. If they believe in themselves and if they're doing a good job for you, then you should have the ability to walk away without fees or penalties. Number 2, are the fees hidden? Of course there are fees. You're going to pay to have professional property management service done, but where are those fees in the agreement? See, fees that are transparent are going to be in one little section of the agreement, and it's going to list out what those fees and charges are, versus a company that's going to try to hide them all over the agreement. And it talks about something over here, and there's another fee hidden in page 17 on paragraph 5. That's a sign the company you're working with may not be transparent. You want them broken down in a clear, concise section. Number 3, was it prepared by an attorney? Here's why that's important. The state of Colorado requires by law that an attorney prepare a property management agreement specific for your company, for our company, for Grace Management, and that has to be disclosed in the property management agreement. Now, I see a lot of PM companies that just don't do this. So it's a good way, it's a good indicator on whether or not your PM company is in full compliance and are they operating under the law's requirements. So where is the section in the agreement that says, for example, this agreement was prepared by such and such a law firm specific for Grace Property Management? If that language isn't in there, you may be working with a company that isn't as professional as they should be. Number 4, how much is the escrow reserve? See, when you work with a company and you sign the agreement, they're going to collect from you an escrow reserve. An escrow reserve is your money, but it goes into your account to fund that account and to pay for expenses that may be incurred every month between the time you get your rent and the time that rent comes in the following month. If something breaks and a repair has to be made, how does that get paid? It gets paid out of your escrow reserve. So how much is that escrow reserve? And that's not a right or wrong, but make sure you know that before you enter into the relationship. Number 5, how fast do I get my money? I've seen companies that will take the rent from the tenant and they don't pay that out to the owner until the following month to run it through their accounting system. That's a long time for the PM company to be sitting on your money. You want that money and you want it quickly. So for example, when we collect our rents from the tenants early in the month, we close out our accounting cycle and that money gets sent out and dispersed to our owner clients around the 10th day of each month. The faster you can get it, the better, but how quickly will you get it? Number 6, what is the maintenance trigger? What we mean by maintenance trigger is at what point does the PM company involve you in spending money decisions on maintenance? Now, you don't want to be bothered for every little thing that happens. For example, if the toilet is leaking from the base, what you don't want is the PM company calling you and saying, hey, the toilet's leaking from the base. What do you think we should do? Well, I'll tell you what we should do. We need to fix the leak. So we're not going to call you in advance of that and say, gosh, can we spend $85 to have the wax ring replaced? No, it's going to get done. It needs to get done quickly for the preservation of the property, the safety of the property, and the convenience of the tenant. But at what point are we going to involve you? And every company has a different threshold on that. While you don't want to be bothered all the time, you also don't want a company potentially spending your money that you're not made aware of that. So make sure they're communicating with you effectively and when appropriate, bringing you into the decision-making process on maintenance. Number 7 are their guarantees. If the PM company places a tenant and that tenant has to be evicted, does the PM company step up and say, hey, we kind of messed up, we let somebody in that maybe I guess we shouldn't have because they're getting evicted, but sorry, Mr. Owner, now you're stuck with an attorney fee as well as no rental income. So for example, if we place a tenant And if we have to evict that tenant because of non-payment of rent, we, Grace Management, we pay the attorney fee on your behalf. Why? Well, because we want to step up. We have some skin in the game. We believe we have an obligation to place a good tenant. That doesn't always happen. Most of the time it does. We've got a good screening process. But we're going to pay that attorney fee on your behalf. If we place a tenant and that tenant has a pet that we approve, and that pet does damage above the amount of the deposit, we, Grace Management, will pay up to $1,000 of that damage for you. Why? Because we believe we have an obligation to do so. So what are those guarantees, especially as it relates to things like pet damage and evictions? Because those are the two most scary, potentially unexpected costs you could be incurring as a landlord. So ask your PM company if they help out in either of those ways. And number 8, who handles evictions? There's a trend in the industry, a bad trend, that PM companies are becoming more and more lower levels of service, and if something goes wrong, what we're seeing is they just push the problem back to the owner. Well, sorry, Mr. Owner, the tenant didn't pay rent this month. Here's an attorney we recommend. Good luck. Hope it works out for you. That's not a proper property management company, in our view. You want a company that's going to handle the problems. That's the reason you're hiring a property management company, is to fix the problems when they come up. So make sure that the PM company is doing all of those things on your behalf and not having to make you take care of the problems that they may have created. If you pay attention to those 8 things, you're going to be able to make a good decision. But here's the most important thing. The management agreement doesn't tell you. What doesn't it tell you? It doesn't measure things like integrity, things like honesty, professionalism, response time. See, I recommend to owners, these are the things you really want to look at in making a decision. Because of the fact that in Colorado, the property management agreements have to be written by an attorney, what that means is 90% of our agreement is going to look like every other company in town. And so it's hard to make a decision. So look beyond the management agreement. Don't only look at the management agreement to make your decision. Look at things like online reviews. Has the company been audited by the Real Estate Commission? Have there been complaints with the Real Estate Commission? What is the average lease renewal rate of the company? What's their rent collection rate? How quickly do they respond? How long have they been in business? Those are the things that the management agreement isn't going to address. Our management agreement looks 90% exactly the same as another company here in town that I think does very bad service. But you would know it from our management agreements. You wouldn't know it from that. So don't only look at the management agreement. Look at these things as well. These are the important, intangible things that are going to make the difference between a successful relationship and them doing a good job, making you a lot of money on your property, versus them doing a bad job and you thinking, oh, I made a mistake. I shouldn't have hired that company. If you've got questions on that, we are happy to be a resource, whether you work with us or not. Grace Property Management, reach out to us at rentgrace.com. We will provide any information we can to help you make your property a successful investment.